and which is a fitness consultancy for the last sort of 7 years or so. And Sonali and Shaf have a solution really to help find their best health and confidence. So Sonali, if you're there, we'd like to see you on the screen. Welcome. Oh, you're looking great. You're in the kitchen.
Yes.
I can see some aloe vera there. Is that aloe vera?
It's my snake plant. Shaf got me my snake plant. It's amazing. Top tip for everybody, snake plants absorb carbon monoxide from your air. So definitely a good one to keep in the house.
Good. Well, hopefully when I can go out and do some shopping, I think that will be one that I'll get as well. So really happy to have you. You're an inaugural speaker at this really exciting event. So without further ado, maybe please go ahead with your session, and then towards the end, we'll maybe have some questions for you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction. That was really, really nice of you. Thank you so much, Milan. And a big namaste to absolutely everybody who's watching and joining us live today. How exciting. So thank you so much to everyone who is watching, and thank you so much to Healing Our Earth, who have kindly asked us to come today to speak live on nutrition. So we haven't got very long, but we are going to try our best to help you all come up with some real practical nutritional habits that you can incorporate in your daily lives, both during this pandemic and thereafter. And then of course, as mentioned, you'll have an opportunity to ask lots of questions at the end, but let's fly through. So the topic of nutrition, such a broad topic. I could talk for hours and hours, but when it comes to nutrition, we all know how important it is. Okay, it's the fundamental of everything we have. Everything we feel starts with nutrition. I think everybody knew this, but not everybody focused on it. But I think now, through this pandemic, people have realized how important nutrition truly is and what value and importance it brings. So when we talk about nutrition, particularly now at the moment during this pandemic, a lot of people are talking about nutrition for immunity. So how do I become immune, or how do I support my immune system the best? And immunity is a really strange and funny topic, because so many people think immunity is this big separate entity inside of your body that, you know, does all these crazy things. But actually immunity cells are found absolutely everywhere. So particularly if you're thinking about the holes in your body, so think ears, think nose. So lots of immunity cells found in your nose, through your nose hairs, to ensure that nothing, you know, pesky is going up. But we today are going to be talking about what goes in the biggest hole in our body, and that is our mouths. So when we also think about immunity, before we touch on nutrition, it's really important to remember that immunity isn't just affected by nutrition. Immunity is also impacted by your hormones, impacted by sleep, impacted by stress, impacted by your kind of lifestyle and the things that surround you. So things like pollution is a really big one. But the reason why we are touching on nutrition today is because nutrition makes up 60 to 70% of your immunity cells. So your immunity cells lie in your gut. Your gut is what we call your second brain. So it's so important for you to be focusing on what's going into your gut. So as we talk about this, I think the biggest point to talk about is balance. So how do we get a stronger gut? How do we support our immune system through our nutrition? And the first thing that I am going to talk about is balance. So having a very, very balanced plate. So we're going to be talking about macronutrients and micronutrients in a very, very quick nutshell. But there's so many people who don't know what macronutrients are. So let's talk about those. These are our carbohydrates, our fats, and our protein. Three very important, fundamentally different, but very unique in what they offer. So carbohydrates are your primary energy source. So you cannot live without carbohydrates. Extremely important, and it's your body's preferred fuel source. Now, of course, we want to make sure we're having the better forms of carbohydrates. So think more complex, think energy, think what's going to give you more energy to last for a longer period of time. Now, a lot of people think, well, how do I find this? How do I know where to look? Well, a good starting point is the back of your packs of when you're in the supermarket, reading those food labels and understanding what contains what. So fiber is commonly found in carbohydrates, but more in complex carbohydrates. So what you're aiming to do is find carbohydrates that are more rich in fiber. Fiber is so important for your gut, and actually so many people in this country aren't even meeting 50% of their fiber requirements.
Reena will be using screen share.
So sorry for that interruption. So in terms of fiber, women should be aiming for about 25 grams of fiber a day. Men should be aiming for about 38. So my favorite bread in the absolute whole wide world is this Hovis bread. And if you have a look at the back of the pack, one slice has 5.2 grams of fiber, which is incredible. So think energy, think good forms of carbohydrates, and trying to avoid those sort of processed and refined carbohydrates, things like white pizzas and chocolates and ice creams, chocolate bars, etc. You want to try and minimize the intake of all these sorts of things and try and increase your vegetables, your legumes, your lentils, whole grain breads, pastas, etc., etc. We then come on to protein. So protein is extremely important, not just for those people who exercise, but actually people who are just living and breathing. So if you think your immunity cells, if they are being compromised, protein is there to help you recover. Protein is there to repair those cells and create new cells. So therefore protein is important for absolutely everybody. Now I completely understand for those watching today, you might be vegan or vegetarian and might be struggling to get in your protein. So something like tofu is a really good option, Greek yogurt, tempeh, soybeans, corn, lots of vegetables like broccoli and okra have protein as well, which is fantastic. And of course your legumes, your lentils, and lots of whole grain bread. So that bread that I showed you previously has 5.8 grams of protein per slice, which is fantastic. Last but not least, we touch on fats. So fats are so crucial because they absorb some of your most essential vitamins. So vitamin K, vitamin D, vitamin A, these are all absorbed through fats, but we want to try and pay attention to those healthy fats. So there's fats that are going to be very good for your heart, very good for your cholesterol. So we're thinking things like avocado, some organic coconut oil, nuts, seeds, etc. And again, trying to avoid those sorts of fats that are going to be harmful for your heart. So things like processed frozen pizzas or processed oils, butters, margarines, those sorts of things. So those are your macronutrients in a very big nutshell. And then, of course, you want a balance of micronutrients. Now, micronutrients are your vitamins and your minerals. So it can be very tough for people to understand how much vitamin A do I need and how much vitamin C do I need. And often that means that many people jump to the conclusion that they need to have a multivitamin. Actually, a multivitamin should only be taken if it has been directed by your physician. Otherwise, think food, right? These beautiful, beautiful plants that grow on our earth are full of different vitamins and different minerals. So often I'm asked, Sonali, what's the best brand of multivitamin? And I say the fruit and vegetable aisle at your grocery store, because it is so true. If you're eating a variety of different foods that grow from the ground, you will get a really good balance of all your vitamins and your minerals. So a few really good daily habits, very easy things that you can do in the day. Number one, try and eat a variety of different plants. So think different colors, eating the absolute rainbow, eating things that maybe you've never even heard of yet. So I found a purple suede in my grocery store a couple of weeks ago, and I made some chips, and it was definitely a family favorite. So you can do the same thing as go into the grocery store, find things that you've maybe never heard of or maybe never come across before, use Google and find a really great recipe that you can try and make. Another really great tip that I like to give to my clients who have families are to have a look at trying to eat a different plant from every letter of the alphabet. So get your alphabet, stick it on the fridge, and trying to eat a different plant from each letter of the alphabet by the end of the week. It can become such a fun activity with the family, and it then means that you're providing lots and lots of variety for good gut health, which is so important. Last but not least, when we're looking at macronutrients, a lot of people don't know how much to eat. So a really good tip that I can give you today, if you can all put your hand up for me and have a look at the palm of your hand, this is how many carbohydrates per meal you should be roughly aiming for. If you close your fist, this is the amount of protein that we say you should be aiming for. And lastly, if you give me a big thumbs up because you're clearly enjoying this session, then this is the amount of fats that you should be consuming per meal. Now, I bet a lot of you are looking at that going, oh, I'm having a lot more than that, or perhaps you're not having enough of one of your macronutrients. So now start maybe thinking about having a really balanced plate. And this is something you can do during the pandemic and thereafter. Such really great, easy, tangible tips for you. So what I thought I would do after giving you these fantastic 3 tips is just showing you something really quickly about what you might expect to have in a day. And this is something that represents sort of a day in my life of food. So I would typically start my day with a lovely healthy smoothie. As you can see, these are absolutely delicious. So these smoothies, I put in seeds and nuts because that's a healthy form of fat. I put in a form of protein. So in my case, that is a minimally processed protein powder, which is a great supplement for both vegetarians and vegans alike. However, you can also add things like Greek yogurt, you can add tofu. There's so many great protein sources that you can put in your smoothie. I've also added soy milk, which is also added with B12. It's also fortified with calcium as well, which is fantastic. And I've got lots and lots of berries and a different variety of berries. Again, lots and lots of antioxidants in my body, lots of vitamins and minerals, keeping things varied. So that's what breakfast might look like. Lunch, so this would be a standard lunch. I've made this all for you, so please feel free to come on by afterwards and have some. So this is what I call chickpea pancakes. In Gujarati, you would call it pudla. In Hindi, if you're watching, it would be chilla. But these are full of vegetables. So I've put in grated courgettes, onions, garlic, which are really, really good, powerful forms of prebiotics. I've put in some carrots, I've put in spring onions, I've put in some turmeric, which is of course very anti-inflammatory. And I have not used any oil whatsoever. So you can actually not add any processed oils into your food and still enjoy that rich flavor and taste. So this was just using a bit of water, a bit of fry light, and it's a great healthy lunch. And then if you have it on the side of, say, Greek yogurt, that's added protein. Or if you're vegan, you can put in a different type of yogurt, like soy yogurt or coconut yogurt. And you can also blend your Greek yogurt with mint. So you can make yourself a homemade mint sauce, which is going to taste absolutely divine. Last but not least, dinner. So dinner, here we are. Delicious. Everybody loves their chili paneer. This is chili tempeh. So for those of you who've not heard of tempeh before, tempeh is a fortified soybean. So it's like tofu, but a bit more firm, and it's more fermented. So fermented meaning it's a good probiotic. Again, really rich for your gut. And again, this was made with no oil, lots and lots of different vegetables that was used from lunch. So this has red peppers, again, a bit of onion and garlic, but lots and lots of other vegetables, and then put in some lovely romaine lettuce wraps. So instead of using wheat wraps, you can instead just pop it into lettuce wraps, which tastes delicious, really rich and high in fiber, and you're guaranteed then to, of course, get in lots of variety of different plants all day long. Now, of course, this was a real quick nutshell on nutrition. Like I said, I could go absolutely on and on because I love talking about it. But I think the important thing to remember, everybody, is that to eat a really balanced plate during this time and beyond, making sure there's lots of color on your plate, make it exciting for your children. So like I said, doing the alphabet activities, wonderful. And then not forgetting that whilst nutrition, like I said, is 60 to 70% of your immunity cells in your gut is of course directed by your nutrition, you can't neglect the other things that also support your nutrition. So these are things like sleeping 7 to 8 hours, 7 to 9 hours, in fact, a day. So we recommend that. Albert Einstein slept for 10 hours a day. So making sure you're sleeping enough to support your immunity, making sure you're moving, so exercising only 30 minutes a day, and it can be a great thing you do with the family. And of course, making sure that you're managing your hormones, particularly that stress hormone, cortisol, managing that through lots and lots of mindfulness techniques, which you are going to learn so much of as the other brilliant speakers come on board. So thank you so much for listening, everybody. I hope this has given you a really good insight into nutrition and a few, just like I said, very easy things that you can do today, tomorrow, for the rest of the week and beyond. And of course, My top tip for today is have a colorful mixed salad with every single meal. It adds fiber, it boosts nutrition, it boosts vitamins and minerals. And of course, you're then not eating too much of everything else. Your stomach is a whole. So if you're going to fill it half with salad, then it means that you're going to eat less of all the other things, which may not be as nutritionally dense. So that's my top tip of the day. But thank you so much for joining us live, everybody. And of course, if you have any questions, please do let me know. I would love to answer them for you.
So Sonali, namaste. Thank you so much for your session, for the inaugural session. I'm still enamored by that plant actually, and your lovely kitchen as well. So a lot of tips there you mentioned, and there have already been some questions coming in. So do stay online. I do like the idea of a pudla and smoothie. So definitely, I don't know, I'm sure you're not going to share your address online, but maybe you can message me. We'll come around afterwards to.
Absolutely. Otherwise, just to let you know, this pudla recipe, this chickpea pancake recipe is on our website and it's on our Instagram as well. I made a lovely video on YouTube to help people cook with us, which is quite nice. So sometimes you read a recipe and you think, oh my God, I don't know if I'm doing it right. So we've got a lovely video as well on our Instagram and on our YouTube channel, so you can cook with us too.
Great. How do we find you? What do we Google? Body Plot, is it?
Body Plot, yes. So Body Plot is a nutrition and fitness consultancy. I myself am a qualified nutritional therapist. I'm also a pre and postnatal specialist and a personal trainer. So we kind of help everybody from all walks of life and all areas of our own lives.
Great, excellent. So look, I've got 2 questions that have come in, and then I know we've got our next speaker almost ready, lined up as well. So we've got 2 questions come in. One is now, during this time of coronavirus, particularly some of our elderly or even anyone may not be able to get out as much to do shopping. So I know a lot of the tips once coronavirus goes, which will happen in due course, but in the meantime, a lot of people are having to make do with what they've got in their store cupboards, etc. So do you have any tips on, let's say, for people who may not be able to go out as much and get fresh produce, of any other tips you've got there?
Absolutely. So a couple of things that I can sort of think of straight away is definitely try and be creative at home. So instead of looking at the glass half empty, try and look at the glass half full. Give yourself a challenge to say, I'm going to make something new today using all the ingredients that I have at home. So go on Google, the internet is at our fingertips, or, you know, there are so many people like ourselves who have recipes online on our blogs and things like that. So have a look at different recipes. You can even go online and search a few different items that you've got in the pantry to come up with some really creative things that you've perhaps never made before, and therefore will still be great for your gut because you're adding that variety. The second thing is make use of dried foods. So a lot of people have still got cans of kidney beans and chickpeas and lots of legumes, which are so rich in fiber, iron, magnesium, and so many other beautiful vitamins and minerals. So make use of these and try and remember the value in things that you do still have. These long life things like cans and tins can provide so much nutritional value. So make sure that you be creative and don't be afraid to use your cans and tins.
Excellent. And I've picked up on healthy carbs as well. So no one's sneaking at them back for too many chocolates or anything, but go for the more healthy carbs as well. And finally, because we do want to keep our next speaker waiting, there was a question just about soya, and there are different theories. I know a thing to mention actually to all the audience here that these are just suggestions we're giving. So please do take them on board. Everyone has their own medical or personal histories, but just any thoughts? Some people say too much soy isn't good. I don't know if you've been asked that before.
I have been asked that before, and I would say that there's been so many studies that have been done, some which have leaned towards sort of not consuming too much soy, but then if you look at the sort of groups that the groups that the people have participated in haven't been very broad, so they haven't got specifically great studies to go off. Many of the better studies have actually shown no negative impact of soy whatsoever. Some studies have even shown that it's benefited those with who are struggling with menopause and certain aspects of fertility. So, but I still think there's still more research to be done in this area. As with everything, I would say, is moderation is key. So trying to not have too much of everything. But at the moment, there is no need to be worried about soy. I think the biggest, most important thing that I can mention right now is A lot of people believe that men can't have soy due to a sort of estrogen-like hormone. And whilst it looks like estrogen under the microscope, it's actually a phytoestrogen. So it's a plant-based hormone, which we haven't actually seen. There's been no studies whatsoever that's conclusively shown that soy is or has harmful effects for men. In fact, Shaf, who's watching and who is our other co-founder, eats soy all the time. And yeah, he's absolutely fine. He's in great tip-top health and he's working very hard in the gym and not sort of getting any kind of negative effects at all. So to put your minds at rest, I think more research needs to be done and there's no need to be worried at all. Everything in moderation.
Thank you so much. So that was Sonali Dattani from Body Plot. So I hope this is now just starting off. We've got a whole day ahead, and just do log in to healingourearth.com and you'll see the vast array of speakers. And that, you know, even if you're in lockdown now, you can see that you've got this day ahead to really boost up our positivity and share this link, share it with others as well. So if you put your hand up, you can see only this much carbohydrate. I know when you queue up at an Indian wedding, usually just the gulab jambu is usually just this much. So do keep that in mind next time. Who knows when we'll next all go to a wedding together, but maybe I've heard of online Zoom weddings. So who knows what will happen as the world changes. But time to introduce our next host as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Reena Kotecha.